Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something pretty incredible. It's how indigenous knowledge and modern science are working together.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating area, and we're going to be zeroing in on Chapter 4 of Roots of Resilience, Indigenous Wisdom for Sustainable Futures. And it's amazing how much this chapter just is packed with real-world examples of how these two knowledge systems are creating some incredible solutions.
Okay, so Roots of Resilience, we've got that. And this chapter, it sounds like, really focuses on this idea of collaborative case studies.
Good job.
In areas like soil, water, and forest management. And then also this fusion of traditional and scientific knowledge in energy and agriculture.
Right.
Which, let's face it, those are pretty crucial for all of us.
Absolutely. And one of the really interesting things about all this is that it's not just a one-way street.
Okay.
It's not just about scientists coming in and applying their methods to traditional practices. It's a true exchange of knowledge.
Right.
Where scientists are learning as much from indigenous communities as they are contributing.
Yeah, that makes total sense because indigenous communities have been stewards of their lands for generations.
Exactly.
So they have this deep, intimate understanding of their environments that science is really only beginning to catch up with.
Yeah. And a perfect example of that is the Blackfeet Nation in Montana.
Okay.
They've partnered with scientists on this wetland restoration project on their reservation.
Wetland restoration. So what does that look like in practice? I mean, are they like bringing back native plants or?
Yeah, they are. The Blackfeet Nation has this incredible traditional ecological knowledge of native plant species.
Okay.
And their roles in the ecosystem. So they're using that knowledge to guide the selection of plants for the restoration effort. But it's not just about the planting.
Right.
It's about understanding how everything is interconnected.
Got it.
And how to restore the whole ecosystem.
So it's like they're weaving together this scientific understanding of, water flow and soil composition with this deep ancestral wisdom about the land itself.
Precisely. And the scientists are actually benefiting immensely from this traditional ecological knowledge because they're gaining insights into the subtle relationships within the ecosystem that they may have missed otherwise.
That's so cool. So they're not just restoring the wetlands, they're making them more resilient.
Exactly.
More able to withstand climate change and all of that.
Right. And the Blackfeet Nation's traditional practices combined with this modern scientific monitoring and analysis are ensuring that these wetlands are restored in a way that is sustainable for the long haul.
That is amazing. So this kind of collaboration, is it just a North American thing, or are there examples of this happening in other parts of the world?
Oh, absolutely. This is happening all over. For instance, in Mesoamerica, indigenous communities are working with researchers to study the carbon sequestration potential of their traditional agroforestry systems.
Hold on, agroforestry systems. You're going to have to break that down for me.
Yeah. Of course, agroforestry is basically the practice of integrating trees and shrubs into agricultural systems.
Oh, okay.
It's a land management approach that has been practiced by indigenous communities for centuries.
So they're mixing trees and crops. What's the benefit of that?
Well, it turns out that these systems are incredibly efficient at capturing and storing carbon from the atmosphere.
Wow.
And researchers are using scientific methods to measure just how much carbon these agroforestry systems can sequester compared to conventional farming practices.
And what are they finding? Is it actually making a difference?
The results are remarkable. These studies are scientifically validating what indigenous communities have known for generations.
Wow.
That their agroforestry practices are not only beneficial for food production and biodiversity, but also play a significant role in mitigating climate change.
So it's like modern science is catching up with this ancient wisdom. And in the process, we're realizing that these time-tested practices might hold the key to a more sustainable future.
Exactly. And what's even more fascinating is that these collaborations are going beyond just validating traditional knowledge. They're leading to new innovations and solutions that wouldn't have been possible without this blending of perspectives.
Yeah, it really is a testament to what can happen when we work together, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's like we're finally starting to appreciate the depth and complexity of indigenous knowledge systems. And speaking of innovation, Chapter 4 also looks at how indigenous knowledge is being integrated with modern science in energy and agriculture.
Yeah.
I mean, those are huge.
Yeah, they're huge areas.
For all of us.
Huge. And the potential for change is just enormous.
Right.
So just imagine communities being able to power their homes and like essential services with clean energy.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Are we talking like solar panels on every roof?
Well, that's one aspect of it, but it goes much deeper than that. We're seeing the emergence of these solar microgrids
Okay.
in indigenous communities all over the world. And these projects are designed with community input from the start.
So it's not just a matter of like dropping in some technology and calling it a day.
No.
These projects are really rooted in the communities they serve.
Oh.
For example, when they're selecting sites for solar installations, they're taking into account traditional knowledge about local weather patterns, land use,
Oh, wow.
even the cultural significance of certain areas.
So they're not just thinking about efficiency, they're thinking about the long-term impact on the community and the environment.
Exactly. And the benefits are multifaceted.
Right.
So not only do these communities get access to reliable, clean energy, but they often see new economic opportunities.
Yeah.
They become more self-sufficient, less reliant on external sources of power.
Okay, so that's energy.
Yeah.
What about agriculture? I'm really intrigued by this whole idea of revitalizing indigenous crops.
It's an incredibly important initiative. You see, over time, many traditional crop varieties have been marginalized or even lost due to the dominance of these modern high-yield cultivars. But indigenous crops, they often have these unique qualities. Like they're adapted to local climates, they're resistant to pests and diseases, and they hold this deep cultural significance for the communities that have cultivated them for generations.
So it's about bringing back those lost treasures.
Yeah, exactly.
But how do you even go about doing that?
Well, it involves collaboration between indigenous farmers who hold the knowledge of these crops and scientists
Right.
who can use modern techniques like genetic analysis to identify and preserve the most valuable traits.
So they're like piecing together a puzzle.
Yeah.
Combining traditional knowledge with modern scientific tools to bring these crops back to life.
Exactly. And the implications are far-reaching. It's about food security, but it's also about cultural revitalization, biodiversity conservation, and restoring that sense of connection to the land and ancestral heritage.
That's powerful. It makes you wonder what other solutions might be hidden within these traditional knowledge systems.
That's a great point. And it speaks to the importance of not just preserving these knowledge systems, but actually revitalizing them, bringing them back to life.
But are there challenges in blending indigenous knowledge and modern science? It seems like it could be tricky to kind of navigate those two worlds.
It can be. There can be differences in perspective methodology, even communication styles.
Right.
But the key is mutual respect, open dialogue, and a willingness to learn from each other.
So it's not always a smooth road, but the destination is worth the effort.
Without a doubt. And what we're seeing is that when these collaborations are done right, the results can be transformative.
Yeah.
Not just for the communities involved, but for our understanding of how to live sustainably on this planet.
I mean, it's really inspiring to see these kinds of collaborations happening all over the planet. It feels like we're at this point where people are finally starting to understand the true value of indigenous knowledge in tackling these big challenges we're facing.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's this growing awareness that these knowledge systems aren't just about the past. They hold all these vital insights for the future, especially when we're talking about building a more sustainable and equitable world.
So for our listener out there, what's the big takeaway from all these examples of indigenous knowledge and modern science coming together?
I think the biggest one is this indigenous knowledge offers a different way of looking at and understanding the world. A way that emphasizes interconnectedness, reciprocity, and long-term stewardship of the land.
It's a perspective that's been missing from a lot of our approaches to sustainability, hasn't it? We tend to focus on those quick fixes and technological solutions without really thinking about the bigger picture, the ecological and cultural implications.
Exactly. And that's where indigenous knowledge can be so powerful, because it reminds us that we're not separate from nature. We're a part of it. And everything we do has consequences that ripple through the whole ecosystem.
Wow, it really makes you wonder if these collaborations are already doing such amazing things. What other possibilities are out there? What other solutions could we find if we really get serious about this partnership between indigenous knowledge and modern science?
That's what's so exciting. We're just getting started, I think, as we continue to learn from indigenous communities and bring their knowledge into our scientific work. We're going to unlock a whole new world of possibilities for addressing climate change, food security, and so many other pressing issues.
That's a pretty hopeful thought, that by embracing these different ways of knowing, we might actually find a way toward a better future, a more sustainable and just future for everyone.
I think so. And it's not just about finding those solutions. It's about changing our relationship with the natural world and with each other. It's about recognizing the wisdom that's out there in cultures that are different from our own and understanding that we have so much to learn from one another.
Well, it's been a truly enlightening deep dive. I know I've learned a ton, and I hope our listeners have too. We'll be sure to put some links and resources in the show notes for anyone who wants to go deeper into this.
And remember, this is just the start. The more we engage with Indigenous knowledge and collaborate with Indigenous communities, the more we'll uncover the amazing potential that exists within these time-tested wisdom traditions.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep an open mind. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world where Indigenous knowledge meets modern science. Until next time.